Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kiran Belsekar, Executive Vice President, CISO and IT Governance at Bandhan Life. With over 2 decades of experience in information technology and IT leadership, Kiran brings deep expertise in managing complex tech ecosystems, particularly within the insurance and financial services sectors. Armed with an MBA in IT, Kiran plays a pivotal role in strengthening cybersecurity frameworks, governance standards, and overall IT resilience at Bandhan Life. Before joining Bandhan Life, he held senior leadership positions, including Senior VP at ENAM Asset Management, where he was instrumental in shaping the organization's digital transformation and information security strategy. Kiran's contributions have earned him multiple industry accolades for excellence in cybersecurity, IT governance, and risk management. His foresight and proactive approach ensure that Bandhan Life stays ahead of the curve while enabling secure, scalable growth. We look forward to the perspectives he'll share today. Hosting today's conversation is Pankit Desai, CEO and co-founder of Sequretek, a company he has steered to the forefront of cybersecurity since 2013. Pankit brings a rare blend of entrepreneurial vision and deep industry expertise. He has over 25 years in global sales, operations, and leadership roles at industry giants like Rolta India, NTT Data, IBM, IntelliGroup, and Wipro. A regular voice at leading forums and universities, he is passionate about simplifying cybersecurity and driving innovation across sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a conversation that's going to stick with us, and it's time to hand the reins to the person who'll steer it. Pankit, take it away, please.
Thank you so much, Soumya, and thank you so much, Kiran, for joining us. And thank you, Soumya, for making me look younger than what I am, because I have 32 years in the industry. So thank you for making me 7 years younger. But Kiran, it's always a pleasure to connect. I distinctly remember when you had taken over as the then Aegon Life Insurance CEO. We had caught up in a boardroom. And since then, I've seen you come a very long way from a security-only mandate to a very diverse mandate, from tech ops to ops to BPO and I guess a bunch of other things that go along. It still kept your hair all black and all nice. So I guess it's still not, I think you'll still take some more responsibilities as we go along. But as you look around, you've been in this space for a while now. And as you look at the regulated industries, so to say, and insurance in particular, how has the landscape changed over the last few years? What's fundamentally different than what it was way back a few years when we caught up in the boardroom when we just started out at Aegon?
Yeah, I think I should say it has largely moved from an IT problem to a boardroom problem now. So the discussions are going out into the boardroom as well. And I also see very soon it may become a survival problem as well. So I think that's how it has been. But overall, the transition has been last couple of years, if you really looked at, been in from more reactive approach. The enterprises are moving towards more proactive and in fact moving towards more predictive approach as well. I think the security is transitioning, tech security is maturing. The stakeholders who are relevant into the organizations have also, or in the ecosystem, has also got evolved. So it's a maturing process. So we are maturing as way, and we have been all listening and maturing also through the media news as well.
Yes.
For the bad news in the front page, and no one wants to be into that the opening page for bad news specifically.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, that keeps us helping us, and in fact it's like has become an always on for the CISOs in the industry as well, wherever I speak to.
I agree with you completely. You mentioned this point about survival, and I had spoken to a very senior leader in between, and he says that if you don't adopt AI, your competitor will grab you. If you don't do an amazing job with security, your criminal will get you. And if you don't follow compliance, the regulator will get you. So as a business owner, sitting where I'm sitting, the triumvirate of problems that all of us are grappling with, all of them kind of coming together as a problem statement. We are a country of regulations, and you see a lot of regulated industries. But compared to a fintech or an NBFC or a bank, how do you think insurance, is there any difference in the way insurance looks at this problem versus some of your peers in the other regulated industries would look like?
Yeah, very pertinent question. You are actually comparing an insurance with banking and fintechs for that matter. If you really look at the banking aspects or the fintech, they largely take the information which deal in an information which is more of a financial in nature, the balances, the statements, money aspect of it. If you really look at from an insurance perspective, it sits in the intersection.
Yeah.
So basically, it deals with the financial data, it deals with the health data, and also with the personal identity data as well. And personal identity is not only now remain with which is called the Aadhaar or PAN, but also about your geographical, your choices, your lifestyle, your other aspects as well. The data is getting, we are able to do a better underwriting process. We get a lot of data also around it. So that's where it really comes into picture, because if you really look at the insurance industry from a data point of view, it's a honeypot. Where while compared to the other segments, or whether it is also compared to an health sector as well. So it is an honeypot. We deal with a lot of, and even if you look at the whole ecosystem, from an insurance perspective, we have aggregators, we have brokers, we have agents, we have technology partners, we have even operations partners as well, your BPO, KPO from that point of view. So it's very scattered. And if you really look at from the security controls from these third parties, it's largely underscores when it comes to the insurer point of view. So if you look at the identity, the access, all these controls are really lacking to be much of this thing. So I think that's where the insurance really comes and leads the way when it comes to the data, when it comes to the security. That's where the intersection points it compared to banking, fintech, or from the medical or healthcare perspective.
I had not thought about it that way. For first time, now I can relate when you say that, because obviously when you go to take a life insurance, they want to get you to do a medical test. That means you have the medical data sitting out there. They will have a nominee details, so then nominee information. Obviously the address and some of the other information that is sitting out there. If you're depending on what you're insuring against, the financial information. So a lot of information gets captured. So I guess I get it. I mean, so thank you for enlightening us and the audience on that. From a challenges perspective, I mean, there is variety of challenges that one looks at, but from a compliance standpoint, I mean, there is a whole market dynamics that comes because of the way the industry is, but there is a regulator who's very active and who's really pushing to make changes. How do you look at that problem statement for you? How are you looking compliance in the organization?
I think thanks to the regulators as well. I think all the regulators which we see in the industry, whether it's an RBI, SEBI, or IRDA, I think they have been very active, very prominent in terms of doing the due diligence in the organizations. Along with that, we also have very soon on the cards, DPDP, certain guidelines. I think they have been very aggressive in terms of they need to ensure, because if you really look at financial sector, or specifically insurance sector as well, trust is the bedrock of the entire industry. So I think that's where the protection needs to be built in. Yes, the compliances from that matter, we have been timely seeing the regulations also getting changes. They are following the innovation as well, which was the case earlier where the innovation was following the regulation, but now we have been very shortly seeing even the regulation is behind the following the innovation as well. I think that's a good sign of it. And the overall, if you see from a risk factor perspective, like I said in the earlier question, the amount of data which the insurers collect, it's really, you can really do a very good amount of profiling for that data, from the health, from the well-being of a customer perspective as well. So I think compliance is that's where the primary aspects which comes into in terms of the compliance, where we do annual audits, but it is no more from an annual audit or a checklist based audit. It has to be a real-time compliance, because it's not only about doing an annual audit, but it is also you have to, because security is not equal to compliance. We have to do much more this thing. So that's where this compliance and the security is very important. Even if you are 100% compliant, it does not mean you are 100% secured for that matter.
I completely get it. I mean, I remember dating myself, but when I started my career and when the post Y2K, when the tech boom, the services boom came up, all of the companies were pushing themselves for ISO 9000 and 11000 and 27. The standards were if you did not have those compliances, you would not be able to bid for large projects. And initially, I know the tech industry took it as it's a tick mark. Let me get it because that allows me to get business. But slowly and steadily, the reason why the Indian services companies did well is because compliance then became the part of your life and you started adopting the best practices, and that gives you the advantage. And I think that's what you're also saying, that it may have started by IRDA as a compliance gambit, but it is now something that you are saying, oh, compliance is A, but can I do A plus B? So that's what I think is right.
And other aspect is, if you really look out in last 5-6 years, the industry has really been transformed from you'll see all paper documents been submitted, the scans been coming in. Now it has all got frictionless. The policy issuance time which used to take earlier and what we see it right now is completely different. It's all become instant, real time is what we are seeing. And thanks to the technology which has got evolved, the India tech stack has got evolved, because all the identity we could look at it. We could also look at all the underwriting from the financial underwriting perspective. All your bank statements, your financial underwriting can happen through an account aggregator, which is also available through an API. So it has become an API driven economy, and it's getting frictionless. And obviously technology plays a huge role in it. And as technology comes, the cybersecurity is also evolving and catching up in that.
I will come back to this point about evolution of technology, because that's something that what we will likely to see in a few years from now. But let's look at from again the point of security. If you look around you, and I know you've done a lot of work over the last few years building a very robust framework for Bandhan, but sitting where you're sitting, I'm sure there are areas that must be keeping you awake at night. If you were to look at that, what would be the blind spots that you would like to avoid as an organization, as a leader? Any things that you think that's something we could do more about, or could be something that will can create a problem for us later on? Are any blind spots in your area that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I think the way technology has evolved, equally has the cybersecurity, because the events has also has increased substantially. So one of the challenges I was talking about, and it's an industry-wide, almost all insurers or organizations, if we look at, they're almost more than 2 or 3 decades aging for that matter. And the technology has also evolved in that space in such a way that organizations have gone with the point solutions.
Yes.
And it has really become very complex. It's very difficult to, from a skill sets perspective, you don't have those skill sets. Integrations are not there, so you cannot remediate. So everything is, and the budgets are actually going down, but the expenses we are not able to cut down because of these point solutions. I think somewhere I felt that there is an opportunity that we have, the way we have seen the technology optimization, consolidation, there is a large opportunity now from the security consolidation as well. And while the solutions were not there at that point of time, but today we see those solutions actively available. So that was one of the initiatives which really helped me, because those were the blind spots for me, because of the lack in the technology integrations. But now with this consolidations, solving the problem of complexity, having a better visibility, skill sets for that matter is not the same. And obviously the AI coming into it, that is actually becoming an additional savior in terms of that we could configure, prompt the questions to the security analyst. I think that has really helped. And on top of it, it has cut down the cost, which becomes a music to ears for the CFO as well. But from the visibility, cost was not a prime objective of it. Simplification was one of the prime objective. I think that's how we are able to help to solve the blind spots. But it's an evolving game. We have to continue playing that game.
You brought up the topic of AI, and that would have been my next question. But I was with a customer yesterday in in a mutual fund industry, and on his whiteboard was this whole thing around what they're doing with AI. And it just so happened, I asked him the question. He says, my big problem is that the business has started using AI dramatically, because you go home and your kids are talking chat GPT, you're opening up a CNN or an NDTV, there is this conversation around AI, there's A news, B news. So they are very, very relatively itching to take technology and start trying it out. But his big worry was that I am a data company, and my power is the data that I hold. My power is the IP that I hold. I'm worried about what's getting publicly used. I mean, it may still be solving a business problem, but I don't know what's getting out. I'm worried about the downstream impact that I may get. PPTP is still not here, but at some point of time it will come. But if the data is already out there in the public domain, what it means to me, he's getting sleepless nights there. So your perspective on AI, the power of it, obviously we know, but in the context, how would you see that? I mean, one way to say shut AI, you can't do it, but that's not going to work. How do you make it happen?
That's definitely not going to work. I'll share you one recent case scenario. We have seen one login which was coming from a remote endpoint, and looking at it, it was a benign. It was just a late night login,
Yep.
which was happening, and moment our XDR system was smart enough to detect the subtle anomaly which was there, and basically it was after login, it was trying to execute certain scripts and mimicking the admin behavior kind of it. But thanks to this AI powered technologies, which is really coming in terms of behavioral analytics or anomaly detection perspective, it really blocked it, detected it before it become an incident. So I've been seeing this AI coming into the space for that matter. But it is equally important to know that the same tools what we have are also available with the threat actors as well.
Yes.
And top of it, they don't have a budget constraints. We do have.
Yes.
They don't have a regulators. We do have. So and always they are getting smarter and smarter.
Yes.
And I always feel that they are smarter than us, because you need to design those problems accordingly. And it's a time now to, it's not only the PPT, people, process, and technology, but you also need to add a G to it, which is governance on top of it, to ensure that you are staying protected from that. But saying this, there are various use cases in the security, in cybersecurity, in an AI workspace for that matter. If you, like I was talking about the XDR sensors, deploying them on whether it is on your email or cloud, or whether it is on your on-prem endpoint for that matter, it really helps to detect and protect the workloads very because of the behavioral analytics and anomaly detection and the machine learning prediction perspective, because that's where it helps to block the threats at the gates itself before getting it. The second thing I would say is visibility through telemetry. I think the feeds which we are seeing from the sensors are also feeded into the SOC. That really helps to have an enterprise-wide visibility for that. It's like unfolding the the chess game, which in a real time as well. The third aspects I would say is from a SOC as a service platform. I think SOC is also becoming more and more matured, because the alerts, the false positives, and prioritizing the right alerts is more important. It's like looking at the scattered pieces of paper into a complete picture, a clear picture. I think that's how it has been helped. And obviously the automation and the assistance to the analyst, it has been like prioritizing the right alert, focusing on the right alert, that has been really come into the play. So various ways is what I've seen.
So on the same topic, on the business side, as AI gets used more and more, how do you see as on the business side, how do you see AI being used, and are you seeing any challenges because of that from a security perspective?
Uh, I do not see a challenges. I obviously see a challenge when threat actor use it to the best of his ability, and we are falling short of it. But yes.
On the business side, you feel that right now you have the right controls to make sure that they're using the AI technologies in the realm of governance that you created for.
Yes, obviously. So I feel that it is, but it's still a learning curve because I still feel it is still not used at its best. There is a lot more potential where it could really help me to respond and automate things much faster than today what we are. So it's an evolving process. And I said we have to test before deploying the automation into a place because it is a double-edged sword.
Right.
It could also disrupt and create more blind spots than what we feel for that matter.
One last point on AI. There is a lot of conversations happening in the market that AI will replace humans for majority of the tasks, at least the repetitive, rudimentary tasks that we're seeing. What's your take from a security standpoint? Will human still be relevant? Will there be human in the loop? Or you foresee, maybe not now, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line, some parts of activities may not have human altogether?
I would say if I had an option to what to leverage AI for, I think largely the heavy lifting activities, which is more of an investigation, detection. That is something which will really help in terms of AI coming in because it's a data intensive activity.
Yes.
And that's where AI can play a very influential role, which will help to get the detections and response much faster. But there are certain activities in terms of the AI perspective, which should not, in terms of wherever there is an intelligence required, wherever there is a human awareness which is required in terms of decision making for that matter, the business impact analysis. That is where I think I'll not rely on only on the AI. These are the activities which a human need to ensure that they are actively involved because they understand the organizational priorities at that point of time. I think, and having an organizational context that really helps in terms of human coming into a loop. But completely relying on AI, that's not the option.
Yeah, and the same board as far as that is concerned. Maybe at some point of time I'll trust, but at this point of time, I'm going to get my deployments on giving the control away
Yeah.
from the machine. These days, a lot of news is around this whole third party. This we spoke about TPRMS of the areas that we work. And there's a very high profile auto major risk that happened out of UK, which is one part of this is a third party risk.
Yeah, government has to come for the bailout.
So third party risk is integral to now how, or rather it is, we have to live with that problem statement because as you rightly said, with so many things changing and we are as an organization are dependent on our partners to make that change happen for us. Right? I was at the Global FinTech Forum the other day and I saw the NPCI team that they had this Meta Ray-Ban glasses and you could make payment with the glasses.
Yeah.
That's one more thing. It's a third party that you're not going to integrate with your payment systems to make payments. And likewise, newer and newer capabilities will keep coming. And for our businesses to grow and scale, that's an inevitable part. How do you see third party risk? And how do you still allow the businesses to flourish using third parties, but ensuring that the controls are there, that you are not coming into any surprises?
Yeah, I think even our regulator, or in fact any regulator, always ask about the third-party risk management. It has become a very crucial part of the ecosystem and from the compliance point of view. So while you're onboarding, or during the empanel period, or even at the time of deboarding or deprovisioning those services, there are defined controls which need to ensure to be followed, and those needs to be demonstrated as well. So these are things in place. So we do audit prior and we call it as a technology risk assessment in our scenario, and that's how what we do before onboarding the partners, and also during the period in case the partner happens to be a critical category. And critical category is when you largely exchange the PII data, the business dependency is high. So there is a various categorizations which qualifies them to be a critical. And if it comes under the critical category, you also need to do an annual audit for that matter. Obviously, at the time of offboarding or terminating the services, you have the another list of services to be coming across, which we need to be complied with. Uh, Along with that, with DPDP, if you really look at the data fiduciary is where, or the significant data fiduciary is where the responsibility lies for the third party. It is not the data processor. So they does not come under the ambit, or I would say the penalty which comes is actually to the data fiduciary or the significant data fiduciary.
The most of the efforts are going into prevention. If you really look at the security budgets, it's more into prevention, but at the same time, enterprises realize that it's not but the question of if, it's a question of when. So you need to, and exactly I was talking about PPG, which is people, process, and technology, but there's another G which is coming, which is more on the governance. Yes. When we really need to focus on the resilience, the recovery time. I think that is right. And if you ask me, even the regulators have started realizing it. I have seen some circulars very recently which talks about the resiliency for this thing, as well as from the forensic of that matter. So rather than looking out for a forensic partner at the time of an incident, you have to onboard a forensic partner and empanel them and keep it ready so we can use it at the time of the incident rather than actually starting your entire cycle of evaluation at that point. So even that is right. Even regulators have seen, all regulators have started like it's a matter of time. So you need to build in your resiliency. Test the partners. Test your even the tabletop exercise for that. It is very important how the management is actually going to respond to an incident. So you do a tabletop role exercise, and it is gradually coming in from a regulation push as well, because the realization is very it's a matter of trend. So you need to be resilient and do this all kind of this exercise really constantly.
Two questions. Ask 2 questions to myself. Both on forward. One on the security side. Thanks. On the security side of the house, what is it that you are looking to focus on as you go along? Where do you think Bandhan and organization continue look at coverage, or increased coverage, or areas, or investment areas of the next year? And in parallel, as you look at your insurance industry, you have had a humongous change right now with the GST change, and it's more for the session or the pluses and the minuses. But leaving that part aside, as tech evolves, how do you see tech changing the insurance industry? So both on the tech side.
Yeah, from a security side perspective, I would say we need to be futuristic rather than playing a catch-up piece. That's right, because PPTP is on cards, quantum computing is another aspect of it, which we are seeing. I think we need to be ready for these threats, and that's where I say we need to be futuristic. CPTP from a data discovery to the rights of the customers, I think all needs to get executed. Seamless journey. Your third party again comes part of it because of the data sharing model and the industry perspective. So I think that is one thing. Quantum is again, while I'm sure there are a few of the breaches which are not coming in light, either they are not known to the parties. But I think it's a time where the threat actors are really harvesting the data, and they'll get it when the quantum becomes way cheaper at that point of time. I think it's a time where the harvesting is that one. So I think these are the two things which really, from a cybersecurity space, and the mindset also needs to be more of a futuristic rather than looking at reactive model. From a technology and specifically in the insurance industry, I would say that the things have already started coming in, going from those traditional documents, submissions, and all this. Today, the enterprises have become frictionless journeys. You really don't need to submit any document to an insurer. I think that's where we are looking at in terms of automating the underwriting process, the claims process, gradually using the AI into it, it's really helping us to make the customer journey frictionless. Even if you look at the documents which get submitted, PDF documents could also be forged as well. So better is that you go and integrate it with your India tech stacks and from the identity perspective, or using it for your own AI models with the government or semi-government data. I think that really helps to define the underwriting, and that's where we are getting, because the insurance is, first of all, is a push business.
Yes.
So however frictionless we can make it and secure we can make it, I think that's where the enterprises are running towards, and that's where insurance industry is seeing the transition towards.
I can get a statement about being a push and therefore less friction, because as it is, you're trying to convince someone to come to that through the journey.
Yeah.
And more friction is there, the more drop-offs will happen in the process. That's exactly how happened in the e-commerce business.
Exactly, and at least in e-commerce, you want to buy something. Here you buy insurance because you're going to die someday. So it's a fear factor which that's the reason. It's still not a mature market, but India is still, and it's a big opportunity. That's why we are talking about 2047 insurance for all.
Right, I started seeing these ads which were there, the mutual funds saying insurance, saying now the insurance industry also started. I think it's a good mechanism, and I think I was reading statistics. We probably are one of the most underinsured countries from the world, right? For the size that we have, it's good and bad. Good in the sense there are a lot of heterogeneity, so I'm sure Bandhan will do amazingly well. And along with that, it makes for a much more safe country as such, because insurance is one mechanism by which you ensure the future of the next generation. So with this, in this day and age, you don't know when an eventuality will happen. As, this is actually a backstop, like cyber insurance is a backstop, so to say. So thank you so much, Kiran. I have some follow-up questions. I know we have about 7 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So now over to you. Any questions that Kiran can help answer?
Yeah. I've just posted that. If anybody would like to ask questions, please use the raise hand feature. We will unmute you and you can ask your questions live. In the meantime, let me just check if we have any questions in the Q&A. Pankit and Kiran, one question.
Yes.
Do's and don'ts on ransomware. One do and don't for fighting ransomware.
Fighting ransomware. What are the do's and don'ts for fighting ransomware?
I would say, I think, have your telemetry visibility across your platforms. I think that is one thing which we need to ensure, because that telemetry is the only thing which will help you to detect what is known and also what is potential attacks as well, which is really not seen from that matter. Have your systems into what you could prevent is one aspect of it, but we also need to detect what cannot be prevented, so that the right use cases are triggered and the automation or at least the alerts are coming into. And even if you look from a ransomware perspective, you would see some basic use cases, because that's where your file changes, your encryptions largely happen, and those would be easily put into your automation system as well from a detection perspective, which the SOC really can identify and trigger it. These are basic use cases which can really, because at the end of the day, the outcome, what they want is to encrypt.
Yes.
And demand ransom. So exactly, I think that's where we could easily look at from a file encryption perspective, and changes in the file that really helps. But with the telemetry is very, very important nowadays. You never know where, because whether it is in, it can't only enter from an IT, but it can also come from OT devices, your TVs, your UPS, everything is getting network and IT. So only telemetry could help you to get that result.
Thank you. The next question, how do you decide when to trigger manual back office processes versus full tech failover over during an incident? Let me repeat. How do you decide when to trigger manual back office processes versus full tech failover during an incident?
It's an incident. The systems are down. what point of time you would say that the system will take some time, it's still not get some work done. So it's again the table time.
Yeah, so I would say the resiliency is where it needs to really build in terms of fault tolerance perspective. So I will answer it into, if you look at from an on-prem perspective, you always have your DR in place, but for any small incident, you don't jump onto the DR.
Yes.
But you have your resiliency built in with a high availability perspective of any technology solution. But evolution of the cloud, for that matter, you have a very deeper fault tolerance into it. You could design your HA in such a way rather than sitting into a same system or same zone or same region, you could get your resilience built into another region or another zone for that matter, which really helps to build in that resiliency and availability. Because to give you one instance, if you really look at Netflix for that matter, they have Chow's Monkey kind of a setup. So every time you are watching the show, at same point you will also see there is a disruption which is happening which you can't see and you can't realize it. That's how. It's a very extreme matured state for that matter. But at least we can really start with utilizing the services, native services, and that really helps to stay in terms of define the automation and the resiliency as well.
Thank you. The next question is on reporting. What metrics and dashboards are most effective for presenting cyber risk to boards in a manner that aligns with regulatory expectations?
Yeah. So I think what I use very importantly is something called a cyber risk score. That is one score which gives the holistic score of the entire ecosystem for that. And now that has become like a ritual for me as well to watch it out and to flash it out periodically. So when I talk about the telemetry and visibility, I think that can get converted into a very objective scorecard. I think that really helps because what board understands is numbers. Yes. So if you could objectively define to some method, I think that's where the communication can happen because otherwise talking about safer, strength, weakness, they're very subjective in nature. The moment you get into more objective, more numbers, more scoring, I think that touches them. So because that's where you could really look at what is that score you really want to achieve, and the board also tracks it. You could also track it. Your team can also track from that number perspective. So changing that number becomes an important because the way the sales drive the numbers, I think this is where security also needs to change from more subjective and objective approach to start looking at tracing the numbers and
I'm a sales guy all my life, so numbers is what I get. But I agree with you because board will not understand qualitative numbers, qualitative metrics. They will not understand the typical security jargon. But numbers they will. I was X, I'm X minus 2. Something is better than last time, right? So that is good point. Yes, Sonia.
The next question is, where do Indian insurers most commonly fall short in sector benchmarking exercises? How can these weaknesses be proactively addressed?
Are there any sector benchmarks for insurance industry?
Not really. Unfortunately, the way threat actors collaborates, I don't see this data is readily available at any point of time. But there is another way to get that is unless and until some service provider has a good market cap in that specific service. I think that becomes one way to find out this thing. But we hardly see that consolidation for market cap with one service provider, which can really give us. I think, but there are a couple of services which we really use in terms of demand or capability, but it's very it's very
fragmented industry.
That's it.
That will be something that you want to take back to the idea. Yeah, we can take something. I think there should be some way to baseline a certain expectation and an outcome. Expectation is baseline by IRDAI already. Right. The outcomes are still to each its own.
Yeah, because if you look at all the recent features, I think even getting the IOCs Is that one reason? Thank you.
So now one last question.
Yes, Pankit. Um, if we already have cybersecurity controls like MFA or EDR or patching, how would that impact our cyber insurance?
It's very well impacts because your compliance matters to the cyber insurance for that. So the better your compliance score, better is your insurance premium value as well. Otherwise, the moment you have breach, the moment you have non-compliance is coming in, your insurance premium also spikes. So I think it is very important to have a right rate, to have a good compliance portion and a security portion.
So this slightly segue to that question. This, and again, this is not you as a Bandhan executive. This is as you as a professional. And I get this question asked multiple number of times, specifically by small and medium enterprises. What is the right? Do I need cyber insurance? So is yes. How much? So sitting when you're sitting, again, and this is, you're on the record, but on the record as a Bandhan is nothing. How would you advise, let's say, a manufacturing company, 100% revenue or 50% revenue, was to ask this question? How do they look at it?
Unfortunately, there is no mathematics to this. But if you have to really identify, at least the financial sector has been matured enough, so they know from the receipts. I think the same method could really get applied to any other industry as well. So what is an acceptable downtime you are really going to see if there is a ransomware attack? That's where the leadership and the other business function should also come into play. It is not no more a CP or a CISO to decide it, probably, but they may have to moderate this discussion within the business. So what is the downtime, maximum downtime are we seeing from an impact perspective? If it is a core of any other industry, how much time it will take to rebuild if even your backup fails for that? Yes. So I think that will decide, and if it is going to be 30 days, then what are the revenues are we talking about? And you need to plan around it. Some mathematics could be applied on those times. And it is better that the enterprises start it early. Because the moment that there is a breach, I think your premiums really flies to 2-3 times or much more than that. So it is very important because during this exercise of cyber insurance, there is also due diligence which the brokers and the cyber insurers does, which also really helps you to get to know your status or how is your cybersecurity health score for that matter. I think it's a win-win exercise.
All right. Thank you so much, Kiran. As always, a pleasure.
Pleasure talking to you.
A fountain of knowledge, and it's been an honor and privilege to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.